Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. Tonight we have Broodhollow, Book 2, Angleworm, Electric Boogaloo, The Empire Strikes Back.
I feel like those last couple may have not actually been part of the title.
Perhaps. We finished off Ichor Falls. Sorry, we finished off Ichor Fall in September with Broodhollow Book 1. And this being the last episode before Hallows Eve, I thought we should do Book 2 to celebrate the season. So, that's why we're doing Book 2.
Or we were going to do Book 2 regardless because we liked Book 1 so much anyways.
Yeah, I have found a convenient place to put it in our schedule. So Broodhollow, it's by Kris Straub, the creator of Ichor Falls, and it is basically the sister storyline or setting / town to Ichor Falls. And it's the comic book is set in the 1920s. Follows the adventures of one Wadsworth Zane, a neurotic door-to-door encyclopedia salesman who ends up in the town of Broodhollow after inheriting an antique shop from a long-lost dead uncle. And then the adventures of Broodhollow Book 1, curious little thing, happen. I suppose before we get too far ahead of myself, we will do our recommendations for Book 2, Angleworm. I'm going to recommend it.
I will also recommend it.
I will also recommend it.
Cool.
Double also? That's impossible.
Damn.
It's possible now.
All right. Well, let's dive into the rundown and then our thoughts and notes to kind of better elaborate why we recommended it as such. So, it's been a few months since Book 1. Zane and the gang must deal with the mysterious death of a friend, Maurice of the why do I always want to call it Bloatfly Bloat Boys? I've been playing way too much Fallout 4.
There's no such thing.
Yeah. Maurice of the Bottlefly Boys. Not Maurice or Maurice, but Maurice. Unfortunately, he has passed. He was found dead in the Stillwood Forest outside of the mill. So, all the while, while this mystery is kind of going on, and like the implication or like the grieving period after the death is going on, Zane is also dealing with these terrifying dreams and the fact that he can't remember past events in the town unless incredibly scared. In fact, Dr. Angstrom has had Zane writing down his dreams and nightmares in a dream journal to kind of better navigate or like correlate his psychological issues. While this is all going on, Iris has been invited to the Women's Society of Town, the Bowers Brigade, or the Ladies Auxiliary of Broodhollow, which seems to have its own little secrets aside from, so it's like the other secret society in Broodhollow aside from the Skull and Shovel Society, but it's not secret. Like it's just a kind of a public affair that like people know about versus the secret society that Zane was in Book 1. Through the trials and tribulations of navigating his psyche, dreams, and interactions in town, Zane discovers that he was actually there in the woods the night Maurice was murdered. And for a little bit, he suspects that he was the murderer. Until a giant insectoid corpse monster, the titular Angleworm perhaps, attacks, revealing to be the true killer. The remaining Bottlefly boys come to the rescue, and Zane actually fells the beast with the final blow. Now remembering the events that led up to this whole thing, and how Maurice died, how the other Maurices brought Zane to to his shop to get something that had been stuck in him from the monster, and that's why he had the supposed murder weapon, or a bloody corkscrew, and all that kind of stuff.
By the way, I'm gonna let you finish, but they're not all named Maurice. By the way, it's Maurice, Morris, and Maris. Maris is the one who died.
Are you sure? Because I just thought it was different. I just thought it was different spellings of the same name, pronounced
Maurice is Mario, Morris is Luigi, and Maris is the bearded man who died.
Yes. Okay. See, I just assumed this might be my own personal thing. I always assumed that it was just a different spelling of the same name. Because I think that would have been because I thought that was funny.
I mean, I get it. Yes, but that's not the case.
Are you sure? How are you sure?
I'll send you a picture of how sure I am.
Okay. Is this just going to be you with a middle finger?
I mean, yes, but after that, I will send the picture that has all of them named.
Okay.
In the first chapter.
Yeah, no, I know it says hello, my name's Maurice. This here is Maurice, and
it says Morris.
That's Maurice.
There's two R's, Morris, Morris, and Maris, Maris, Maris.
Hang on. I like how we're stopping the entire podcast right now.
I'm just saying, the first time that we did chapter 1, we did not refer to them as Maurice, Maurice, and Maurice. This is not
I did, or I was.
I don't believe you did. I would have given you shit for it.
Well, I was, and you didn't catch it.
No, you're gaslighting me. Which is what this whole book is about.
Basically, yeah. That's the horror of of book 2 is basically just gaslighting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, all right. Well, anyway, yeah, Marie or Morris or Maurice, whichever one it is, out there in the comments, leave a question. See who's right here.
We don't need a question. We need an answer.
Yeah. Wait, did I say leave a question?
Yeah, you did.
Fuck. Okay.
I'm not gaslighting you either.
No. All right. Anyway, I'm okay. Back to the actual rundown. So, okay. After killing the beast, they find its lair, which is a deep pool of warm water, despite the wintry season. It's exposed with all the snow and stuff. And it's out in the Stillwood Forest. And Zane uses a diving suit from his shop to descend down into the depths to finally discover the truth and message from his dreams, since he's had this sort of large gashing hole imagery in his dreams, and the pool of water kind of fits, kind of looks vaguely like the hole that he's been seeing in his dreams. So he decides to dive down there and finally get some answers to this goddamn questions of what the hell's going on in this town. At the bottom, he finds strange anomalies, the water just stops on the ceiling, as if gravity has flipped. And even stranger objects and artifacts. There's stone piles with symbols and stuff on them. There's this weird glowing crystals everywhere, and these cages that are hanging, and there's this large medallion object with a symbol that's familiar, or it's faintly similar to those of the Bower Brigade and Skull and Shovel Society's logo. Also, the skeleton cadaver just appears as a specter floating in the darkness behind Zane, and he's crying blood. Finn? That's where book 2 ends. Technically the last chapter of the last page of the book, or of book 2, is the menu for the local diner, Cubby's. I think it's Cubby's.
Sorry?
Yeah, Cubby's dining car.
There was something
What's
after that?
Yeah, well, yeah, like after like the last page on the website is the menu for Cubby's.
Slowly clicking through everything.
It's
Hit
literally
last.
it's the last pitch. Like, yeah, just go to the current page.
Oh, for some reason I thought there was a third out, a third book rather. I didn't click ahead to see if there was more.
No. The third book, unfortunately, at first was, I think, behind a paywall. Mm-hmm. It might be available, like I think for print and stuff like that, but I'm not sure about the circumstances yet.
Oh, okay.
About that. Because I know that like Kris Straub, after like book 2, moved his artwork and stuff like that to a Patreon, for business purposes.
At these prices, 30 cents for French fries.
Well, you got to understand, this is the 1920s, so
yeah. 2 eggs, ham, or sausage. I almost said sausage party. Sausage patty, 35 cents. My God.
Wow. Or Cubby's diner breakfast: 2 1/2 eggs, 3 pancakes, 2 hamburgers, French toast, and a bacon hock, plus coffee for $3.40.
Yes, please.
Damn. 2 hamburgers. That is ridiculous.
With 3 pancakes as well.
Yeah. With 3 pancakes and French toast and a bacon hock.
Missed opportunity here. They didn't put bottomless coffee.
That is a thing, though, too, isn't it?
Yeah.
For like a nickel, you can get bottomless coffee.
Yeah. Well, it just says he got coffee.
Yeah,
but it was brought up that he was taking advantage of their bottomless coffee.
For a nickel, yeah.
That's true. Yeah, there's something on here called a hollow dog. The weird name.
I mean, I also looked at Sky Meat, assorted poultry, on a hot sandwich.
Where?
It's under hot sandwiches and otherwise. At the bottom, there's it's like Sky Meat, and then in brackets, assorted poultry for 25 cents.
Well, it's a sandwich.
Yeah. I just like that. I was like, Sky Meat, the Sky Meat sandwich.
Grill scrapings? That's delicious sounding.
Oh, that is, oh God.
And I get why that's called a hollow dog, is Broodhollow, but still, it's a weird sound.
Oh, fuck, that's right. Man, now I kind of wish I'd gone to that hot dog stand near Icker Falls, like out in West Virginia, like on my way to Point Pleasant.
What, Cubby's?
I don't know. Like if they had like a hollow dog or something like that, I wish I'd known about this earlier so I could. It's like I could have told Adam from RPX, like, Adam, we need to stop here. They might have a hollow dog.
Yes.
Or a Cubby's special. And then I'd be disappointed because they wouldn't have it because this doesn't exist.
Of course it exists. It's right in front of us.
Yes. Anyway,
I like the stains on it, by the way. It makes it legit.
Yeah, it's a coffee stains and some really good like mock-up work was put into this last page. However, yes, that is the end of Broodhollow Book 2. I left a lot of stuff out, obviously, because otherwise I'd be here for another half hour or so of just the rundown. So, yeah, and you can check out Broodhollow, the webcomic, at broodhollow.krisstraub.com. And yeah, I suppose we'll dive into everyone tolerates the Grand Inquisitions. Does anybody have any?
You didn't say at this point.
Yeah, I'm because I don't have any Grand Inquisition. I'm not sure if you guys. I wasn't I didn't think you guys had any, so that's why I changed it up slightly for this episode.
Threw me off and stumbled a little bit. Yes.
What? Oh, you actually do?
I have one.
Okay. All right. Well, Mikey, D stands for evil.
All right. So this is in 2013 1030.
Okay, hang on. God, I wish this website had an index. Okay, I'm on 1030.
In the fifth panel,
Mm-hmm.
there is a UU situation, so it needs a comma.
Oh,
yeah. So, do you have do you want to say how it says on there?
Sure. Yeah. Ghosts, spirits, things that don't know they're dead, entities that want something from you can't give, books out of order, books in an unknown order. So if there's the comma between you and you, I feel that would, or entities that want something from you that you can't give.
Yeah.
Would also fix that.
Would a dash also help, like in that space there? Like from you dash you can't give?
Not really.
Okay.
Honestly, I'd put a period because that's kind of a run on anyways.
Maybe just get rid of the you can't give. I mean, this is dialogue technically, but
yeah.
Yeah, but he'd also be running out of breath, especially since he's out in the cold right now as well.
Yeah, true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my grammar inquisition.
All right. Gamer, your grammar in yellow.
Mm-hmm. I have 4. Let's see.
Just pull up the, get ready to type in the date.
So this is during one of the Cadaver comics on 2014-02-12, if you care.
0212?
Yeah, I could just read it if you want. It doesn't matter.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Says, we have a very easy fracture. True or false, we are only bones underneath. To that, I was like, underneath what? Given that this is a French skeleton talking to a skeleton cat, wouldn't it be more apt and simple to say we are only bones? Or we are all just bones?
Oh, that's true, yeah. Because, like, he's kind of just like speaking philosophy, but like, why would he worry about, like, why would he say underneath, like, because obviously he means like underneath skin, but like he's a cadaver and fracture skeletons already.
Yeah. So it's kind of weird.
It kind of like maybe he's not referencing himself, he's just like referencing people as like on the whole, but like even in his little comic strip universe,
they're all skeletons.
They're all skeletons. Like even Mort, the Debbie Downer.
Is that the Conehead one?
Yeah, that's the Conehead guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even if he just said like we're all only bones, like it still makes sense for even fleshy people because he's saying like everyone's just bones at the end of the day.
Yeah,
doesn't matter if it's underneath or over top, you know.
Although, I just realized technically he's not just a skeleton, because if you look at the second last page of the comic,
that was a note of mine.
There's a when he's a spirit ghost, like in that darkness, and he's like weeping blood, he's see-through, and you see that he has a second skeleton inside of his skeletal appearance.
Yeah, I was very confused about that.
I mean, it's really cool because like it's almost like it's like a trippy like ghost, like ghostly apparition. Like it's like the ghost of the comic book character has a skeleton inside of it, like that is more like realistic and more creepy and freaky. Or like maybe that skeleton is like a skeleton from like a Zane's world, whereas like his like Cadaver's outer shell of a skeleton in his little comic strips, that's actually like that's his like cartoon style in the comic strips. But when he enters into the real world to visit Zane, he's like it becomes his skin or his outer shell, and so you can, and then he has like an actual like Zane world skeleton inside of that.
Or like for him to manifest, he had to occupy a dead skeleton that was just hanging around.
Yeah, I like that even better. Yeah. Like he has to like use it as a medium to manifest.
Mm-hmm.
Very some very Shadowrun stuff. Sorry, Mikey.
Always. ways.
Actually, that's very Shaman King. Actually, now I think about it, because the ghosts in there always need like some kind of a medium, and like there's even a character who's like a necromancer from Germany named Dr. Faust, and he resurrects his dead girlfriend using her skeleton as the medium, so that the spirit can like anchor to and like manifest around it, like creating like a glamour, or like an illusionary kind of construct around it to look like his dead wife again. But regardless, it is kind of silly in regards to like the comic strip.
Yes.
Also, I just realized him and his cat close their eye sockets.
Yeah.
So maybe they aren't actually skeleton. Maybe that isn't actual bone. Maybe that's actually their flesh.
I would like a hyper-realistic drawing of him, please.
I mean, done. I can do it.
Yeah. We have the technology.
It's gonna be like that creepy like Pac-Man, or like a hyper realistic Pac-Man, or like SpongeBob or Patrick.
Mm-hmm. Because these are all black and white too, so he might be like flesh tones too.
Oh God, that's so it's so gross.
Like with the hole in his arm and everything.
Yeah. Oh God, that's terrifying. I love it.
You're welcome.
All right, continue. Sorry, I'm done.
Does that mean like his little bone teeth, quote unquote teeth that come down, or kind of like a little bit of a tentacle situation, just like
I'm
flaps?
thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just flesh flaps. They're actually not teeth. They're just little like flesh
The
flaps.
Squidward situation?
Yep.
Nice. I'll move on finally.
Okay.
So, get introduced to Cubby's dining car and all that, right?
Yes.
And I don't know if you saw this coming or not, but I kind of want it to be CUBBYS' dining car, because it's possessive to Cubby's after all. To Cubby after all, right? Right?
I suppose. unless the person's name is Cubby.
It doesn't matter. It's possessive to them. They own it.
Oh, right. Yeah, your whole thing of like the apostrophe should be on the other side for possessive rather than what it always is.
Yeah, because
Gotcha.
Because when it's on the outside, it means it's possessive, but when it's on the inside, it can mean it's possessive, or it's saying Cubby is dining car.
Yeah.
Because English sucks.
This is just yeah. Once again, the soapbox is out for gamers' inquisition against English.
Yeah. That's my bit. I hate the English language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to get that T-shirt done at some point.
Probably. So my next one.
And that's when the language part gets like gets worn off the shirt. It's just, I hate the English.
Wow. Haven't gone that far yet. Anyways, moving on. My last one is actually, I mean, I don't know if I want to group this in. Well, okay, you tell me. Should I group this in with grammar in yellow or notes? It is an art discrepancy.
That would probably be in the actual thoughts, because that's about art, not the grammar.
Okay. But it is something that is fundamental. It's fundamental. Wow, words. Fundamentally wrong with the whole. It's not a. I'm not saying that it's an error. That's just like a simple error, like, oh, they forgot to color something in or something. It's.
Yeah.
Something is portrayed one way, and then it's portrayed another way in the next.
Oh, okay. Then maybe now. Yeah, maybe now's good.
Okay. So, if you want to look at it, which you might have to, it is 2014-07-04.
0704.
During like the dream with the back monster thing.
Yeah.
So in the previous panel, the arm comes out of his back, and then in the next panel, this entire entity is coming out of his like in below his belly button. Basically, it's coming out his front.
Between his belly button and his junk.
Yeah.
Let's not let's not beat around the bush. It's coming between. It's almost like basically his junk.
Yeah, he has a junk monster.
The way
now.
it looks like.
And like his knees are bending forward, and Zane is looking up, so it's coming out of the front of him very clearly.
Yeah.
Even though It came out of his back?
Yeah, it like burst through his back, and then he like it somehow like when he bent backward. I do see some lines around the side of his like torso that look like they might have been like that he's like twisted around.
He's not. He's
No, but like it's very like like those are probably more or less just like lines from like the shirt itself, like being torn and stuff. But like I could have seen it like if he had like his whole torso had just turned around like 180 degrees.
But his legs as well. They bend.
I know. Okay. Yeah.
He should be facing the ground, and his knees should be bending the other way, and his booty should be where the monster's going.
Oh, no. Unless he has a front booty.
He might have a front booty. You're right.
He might. Yeah. I don't think that's the case, but he might.
Like
he might have gone through a teleporter. You never know.
Oh yeah.
Also, yeah. For a second, there's like, did this thing just like rip like from like his head all the way out, and we just don't see the other side of his body, where like it's just split open like a banana peel?
I mean, that's possible. It's possible that the hand came out and then just ripped him.
Because I see like a jawbone and stuff, but
it's possible that the hand came out the back and just ripped basically the outer skin of him off.
Yeah, because we don't see the other side of him, so it's possible that he's just like he's split down the middle. Because there's even like, I mean, there's a lot of skulls on this creature, but there is like a lower jawbone, like near the torso, near its torso. So like maybe that's like that's Zane's like jawbone that's been like pulled with the creature as it like went around the guy.
I don't know. The rest of his body is still very solid. It's not like his arms have turned it like all floppy, and his skull's all deflated.
You're right.
That would be cool, yes, but I believe it's meant to be a visualization of this back monster thing because of his tricky
it's
back.
Just somehow it burst through the back, then went back inside, and like it needed that extra momentum, like of it, like of getting pulling part of itself out from the back, and then it just withdrew those parts that had been pulled from the back so that it could rip through the front.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a little bit of a discrepancy. I'd say this is more of an art discrepancy rather than like grammar, but I mean that's fine. Like this is also your last like note for your grammar inquisition, right? So this is actually kind of a nice little segue into the final thought or to actual thoughts. So, but yeah, that is kind of. I did also think that was kind of wonky, but I was gonna let it go because it's horror. It's supposed to be weird and surreal. It's also a dream sequence, so.
I mean, yeah, but his dream sequences have made sense pretty much the whole time. There's been no weird changes of things from one panel to the other.
I mean, nothing that like that feels like it's like, well, that's kind of an indiscrepancy. Like, there's been some weird, surreal shit in his dream panels, but like, this is the first one I think that's actually has like a valid like. I don't like. Shouldn't he be like? It's almost like Kris Straub was like drew the creature like coming out of his back, and he's like, but I really want him to just like come through the front. I'm just gonna ignore. We're just gonna have this happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Only an asshole would bring this up, right?
Yeah, clearly. But hey, gamer, you know how every group has an asshole? Well, you're our asshole.
Thanks.
Hey, time, home slice.
Yeah, I love it. Anyways, moving on.
Okay. And that is your final grammar inquisition note. All right. So yeah, then on to actual thoughts. Okay, so I'm going to actually preface this. We did a lot of like what was wrong with the overall like what we thought was wrong and stuff like that with like Broodhollow and like the website and all that stuff in book 1. So if you would like to go back to book 1 and look at all the things that I thought were wrong or like problematic with the website and like the things I didn't like about the comic, you can go there. And the rest of my notes for book 2 are really just me like kind of reading while I was reading the story. I would take screenshots of like different panels that I thought that like kind of exemplified things that I liked about the story or like that kind of pushed it past like what we'd already seen in book 1. So starting with this actually. So Broodhollow, 2013, 10, 18, the close to the beginning of the series, or the very close to the beginning of book 2, where Iris is leaving Zane's an antique store after like he's had like a bunch of people like come in and buy stuff because he has heated floors, I guess. And she's like she's saying goodbye, and then Zane is like, say hello to your father for me. And then Iris responds, he's actually away on business. He comes back in a few days, and then she leaves. And at this point I was like, oh no, it's happening again. this actually, because like this actually hit me when I read this part. I like got to this part, it kind of hit me as incredibly sad in a horror way, because like, oh no, she's still forgetting, like she's still in denial about like her father being dead and stuff like that. And it's like, that's actually kind of sad, and like kind of got me for like a horror angle of like, that's actually that's still kind of freaky too. It's like, oh shit, love, like knowing what I know already from book 1. Now this is all a dream.
Yep.
As we find out in the next panel, in the next page. But Zane later can't recall things as well, like, and that becomes kind of a running theme for book 2. Is much like Gamer said in our rundown, the horror of book 2 seems to be really the gaslighting situation. And that is horror. Like, that's horrific, like not being able to account for things that you've done, or like not recall things that you've done. And like it's part of the horror of like amnesia and even like actual like real world illnesses like Alzheimer's and stuff like that, like not knowing, not remembering things, not recalling things, like fucking sucks, and it's horrific. So it caught me in the story, like it was a lot more, it kind of made book 2 a little bit more serious on like the psychological like kind of horror angle of this thing, while kind of dipping into like cosmic horror and some supernatural horror with like, you know, the rest of the Broodhollow stuff. Specifically like when like Zane can't recall like how he got Mercy, his little bat pet. Like he doesn't recall any of the bat stuff like that. That's on 2014-01-15. And it's supposed to be kind of like lighthearted, like the last panel that like where he's like, because the guy was like looking at Zane because he has a pet, like a pet bat, and Zane is just like, the last panel of 2014-01-15 is, for a while I was wondering if pet bats were a hot tip in town, that or the place is just lousy with them. That's what the author, Mr. Novacek, says. And then Zane is just like, haha, I think I'd remember seeing more than one bat. And I mean, like, it's done as like a silly thing, because like if you've read book 1 and like gone into book 2, you know that like there was a lot of fucking bats, and there's even like a monster situation there. But when I read this, it actually hit me with like more sad thing. Is like, oh shit, he's forgetting like even like pivotal like personal things that happened to him and stuff. And like, I don't know, that kind of like hit me a little bit more harder with like a horror angle than I think it was intended to. But and then there's even more dread of it, like of not remembering and then realizing as such, which is exemplified in 2014-05-09's webcomic page. When Zane just like, when he finds that he has a second journal, and then like all this horrible shit in the journal of like how he tried to remember through like fear and stuff, and then like it kind of the implications that maybe he's done something, like done something really bad that he can't recall. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is I would like how book 2 really kind of like ramped up the psychological horror, or the more serious horror of like of forgetting these past events. Like the town keeps forgetting things, and then the characters like who do realize that they're forgetting things, like it hits them a lot harder. It's not just for laughs.
Yeah, because like you can't even trust your own mind anymore.
Exactly. And again, like maybe I'm sure it was intentional, but if not, it's very subtly done in the story. So and on to something about the creepiness of the story of this comic versus the previous one, like the previous book. Basically on 2013-10-21, after Iris leaves leaves Zane's store, and then like Mr. Osgood, the mayor, comes in quietly, and then like turns very weird, like because he goes into like goes under the table, and then Zane investigates closer, and then when the mayor's like head reveals that there's a giant gaping hole in his face. I'll admit that was really fucking creepy to me. Apparently that's like a thing I'm afraid of, is no faces. Because it like the imagery in book 2 of like these no face like dream sequences that Zane kept encountering, I found it more unnerving as illustrations than I did for any of the stuff that was in book 1.
I think I know why.
With like the ghost or the Stitch monsters or stuff. You know why?
Yeah. For one of the reasons that I brought up in the previous recording, because there's it's in world. There's no jump to hyper-realism. Like, yes, it's more detailed, but it's not like it's not hyper real. So it's still in world. There's no disconnect.
I think maybe that is it. Like that's where it hits way better in book 2, because of like it isn't super hyper realistic, so we have to like have it separated on like a separate panel. Like it's hitting me while I'm reading through like the comic strip, even though it's like I know I can see in my periphery that panel at the end that has like the revelation, but it's still freaky even when I look at it, because I don't want to look at it.
Yeah, but also because it's in the same world and it's not super hyper realism like it's from a different comic or something, it doesn't stand out as much, so it's easier to ignore it and just see it when it shows up.
Yeah, like as you're going from panel to panel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because like I think you nailed it. Like it's not the hyper realism like detail that we got in book 1, and like it even happens like when they're talking with Miss or Mrs. Iskith, the very old matron of the was it what the hell, Barrow Brigade? Bowers Brigade.
Also like the auxiliary.
Yeah, the ladies auxiliary. There's a couple of times when she suddenly gets like very serious or very dark, and like her wrinkles get more pronounced. Yeah. And it's like, oh shit, like that. Like, but that's all in the art style still. Like it doesn't shift art styles, which it worked for me for the first one. It worked for like the hyperrealism, but I'm starting to kind of like lean to your side, Gamer, where like I wish it had been like on a separate page so that it would have impacted harder.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in this one, like Kris Straub has found a way to do it in his cartoon style to make it creepy, while not like completely separating it from the original art style. So
yeah, there's a term with cartooning, staying on model. That's what this is doing. Yeah. It's staying on model. It's not jumping to something completely different. So you can...
and I think I think honestly what's also like helping it is that like it's these events, like these situations are the only time when the characters get shading as well.
Yeah.
Because up until that point, like everything else is like flat color for the characters, except for these more graphic versions of the cartoon character, but they are staying on model, like you said. So yeah. I again, boiling it down, like the scares or the creepy factor and the horror factor in book 2, I think was more grounded to the actual like cartoon style in book 2 than it was in book 1.
Yeah, less is more in this case.
Yeah. And then we get on to my saddest moment reading the story.
Oh, no.
Comic page 2013 1202. The death of Maurice.
It was Morris.
No, he was my favorite Bottlefly boy. What?
His name is Maris, actually.
I said Maris.
I said Maurice.
God damn it! I'm trying,
I actually
man.
said
I'm
Morris
trying
a
so
couple
hard.
of times too before I corrected myself that it's actually Maris.
Oh, God. See, this is why I thought that it was just Maurice, like 3 times, just in different spellings. That was.
It's entirely possible that I'm wrong and you're right, but it's also possible that I'm right and you're wrong. So,
God damn it.
Kris Straub, who's right?
Yeah, Kris Straub, if you're listening to this, also, wow, I'm incredibly flattered that you're listening to our podcast. But also, is it Maurice, or is it Maurice, Morris, Mary, or Maris?
Mary?
Well, no, because if it's French, like Mary, like it kind of sounds like the French of it, so it could be Marie. Anyway, because in French they usually like don't pronounce the S in things. Anyway, yeah, somebody down in the comments, please give us an answer. We'd like to know, or send us an email at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. Moving on. So yeah, and then we get the like where, because like up to this point we didn't know like where he died. Like we know he died in the woods around Broodhollow. It's like okay, and then we get the next, like I think it's the next page is when the newspaper boy in town is like extra, read all about it. Mill worker found dead in Stillwood Forest. Oh fuck, Stillwood.
Yeah.
Was he murdered by the Stillwood King?
I wish.
I mean, maybe that creature, that insectoid creature, was the Stillwood King.
I don't know.
Or maybe it's like a servitor of the Stillwood King.
Well, I thought that the thing coming out of Zane's back looked more like the Stillwood King.
Yeah, you're right. It could have been, but again, that was also in a dream sequence, so that wasn't really tied to this.
Well,
unless it was.
Yes, it's hard to say because his dreams seem to have root in reality.
Yeah.
So it could have been the Stillwood King that killed him, and then there just happens to be another monster.
Yeah, this book was very like, it's gaslighting the characters in the story, and it's gaslighting the readers, because like, what the fuck's real? And what's a dream sequence? Because there's multiple times where like it was a dream, and it's like, wait, is this the dream or is this reality? I can't tell anymore. Is this the real life or is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide. No escape from reality.
Right?
Right.
I'm pretty sure Zane said that too. Not those lines, but
yeah.
He basically said like, "Wait, am I actually in a dream right now?"
I mean, I'm just quoting Bohemian Rhapsody.
I'm aware.
So, are you? Okay.
Yes, I am actually. That's why I let you continue without interrupting.
I appreciate that. Now I just got to find out if I can fit somewhere in our talk today what makes a man. Again. So then I'm going to move on to so that's just, like they mentioned the Stillwood Forest. So those are the woods around Broodhollow, and in fact that's where the mill is getting its wood from. It's like, oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. Like,
nothing good will come from that.
Yeah. And then we have this one was like, again, I was like, while I was reading the story, there's a couple of my comments that are just like in the moment. So like on comic page 2013 1223, this is when Mr. Planchet finds out, like gets like when Zane returns from the secret society meeting, and like the coroner says that like it wasn't an accident, or like that Maris died from, or Maris. Well, see, that's like Maris, like because again, like I think it's French like sounding. So, but Maris like didn't die of exposure, or like he was murdered and stuff. And Zane afterward, like when he gets back home and he's talking to Mercy, he's like, Planchet wasn't even phased when the coroner said it might have even been or foul play. The mayor sure was, though. I guess Broodhollow is usually crime free. Come on, let's check the front door again. And I was like, almost as though Planchet knows something about the murder. Almost as if he is the murderer. Which means that he's not, because it's too easy.
Yeah.
Like, that was just my genre savvy brain. Like, I was like, it's almost as if Planchet, Planchet's playing it off as if he is the murderer, because he knew that what was happening and stuff. But Kris Straub is too smart to like have that be such an obvious ploy, unless he's hoping somebody genre savvy will pick on that and read in the story. Yeah, and as we find out, like honestly, there was a couple of times, like a couple of people I had suspected before we got to the end. Like for some reason, I thought it was first. I thought I was for like a half second. I thought it was Mr. Planchet, and I was like, no, it can't be Mr. Planchet. That's too obvious.
Where's red? Red herring.
Yeah, and then I thought it might have been Mr. Novacek, because he's like the outlier, and that's also a trope of like this murder mystery guy. But then I realized, no, that's also not really right, because well, first off, that's again another obvious trope. Secondly, he dies from the actual murderer. And then, like, honestly, I was for a bit, I was like, did Zane actually end up killing him? Like, did he get possessed or something and take him? And then the actual like payoff of who it was, I actually liked a lot better. But I'll get back into that in a little bit with another note I have.
Especially when he finds like the corkscrew thing that has blood on it. It's like, oh shit, maybe he actually did.
Yeah. Well, and then it all ties into like even his back pain that he's been having. Like we finally find out like why he has that back pain and why he has been having these dreams where like something's coming out of his back and stuff.
Yeah.
So it all comes together eventually in the end. But like I did enjoy the kind of the mystery of like trying to figure out like who done it kind of thing, right? And actually, so going on to another thing here. So on 2014-02-21, when Zane is with Cadaver and like in his dream sequence and trying to like figure things out, and like he sees that the lines like form a pattern that he can try and like read, and it gets more and more convoluted with each passing panel. Like first panel is like, wait, it's all here. I can use all of this. Haha. I just have to remember so I can write it all down. And then as he's like, he keeps talking, and as he keeps talking, his dialogue blurb gets kind of like falls behind the panel, so you can barely read the edges of it and stuff. And it gets more and more convoluted, and more distracting and stuff like that. I really liked how Kris wrote did this sequence of like cutting off the word bubbles in progressively like more and more panels to show things getting more frantic and confusing in Zane's dream as he tries to understand everything. Much like how the reader is trying to read this and trying to understand what he's saying, and like it's just becoming a garbled mess. Like it really kind of captures a dream sequence in the comic strip medium to me.
Yeah. There's also
passing. Yeah.
Also, there isn't enough cut off that you can't actually read it as well.
Yeah, so it's not like too infuriating, but it's just enough that like but it's like it's cool. Yeah. So yeah, I just have to commend Kris Straub for like really capturing a nightmare or dream sequence in comic strip format. Like by just like having this kind of a confusing mess like as it gets worse and worse and worse. So and the next thing here is actually when Dr. Angstrom on 2014-05-16 and like the surrounding comic strips is having to come to grips with the supernatural. Like there's actually like a 4 set of panels where it's just like so it's like Dr. Angstrom is just like trying to skeptic away all the things that are happening. It's like my skepticism rendered me in a highly suggestive mental posture, leading me to believe I saw repetition in my notes, when in fact, and then like the next is Zane just like Dr. Angstrom, and then it just leaves like Dr. Angstrom, like the next panel is just like almost in a defeated state, and then he confronts Zane in the last panel that I have here. In school, they taught us about the crazy ones, not how to be one. I really liked this character development of Dr. Angstrom, like having to come to grips with the supernatural element that he is so skeptical about.
Mm-hmm.
And like not, and just like it was like a really humanizing, like the character's kind of like the character has had like human kind of emotions and stuff like that throughout the story, but for the most part he's been like very professional, very skeptical about the situation, very like kind of pulled away from the situation, even though and he has had like personable moments in the story, but this is like the first time where we actually see him falter from his occupation as a psychiatrist or as a psychoanalyst, and having to grip with the fact that like either this is supernatural or he has gone crazy as well. Like he has fallen prey to what he is trying to cure, trying to understand. It was very cool moment. I really liked that about for the character. And then
also, was that the voice that you read his lines?
Unfortunately, it has always been. Like I know he has a German accent, but I could never remember that was the case. So yeah. I'd always do it like My skepticism rendered me in a highly suggestive mental posture, like very like kind of like bully, like academia, like kind of voice. I was basically just giving him the Petonius voice from our Grumblehammer Esoterica games on One Less Die.
Nice plug. You're welcome.
Yeah, sister podcast for Al Dente Rigor Mortis, our actual play podcast, One Less Die. But yeah, I he'd say like Guten Tag, and like I'd say it like that.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Or no, mein Gott, like that. That's the only time I'd like go into like a little bit of a German, but otherwise it'd just be this like more British academia than
It just
German.
says the one German line, and then immediately goes back British.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like in movies, when like most of the time the actor is like is just putting on like a very like polished like English accent, and then just but like the character's supposed to clearly be German.
Yeah.
But moving right along to the next thing here. So this is when we get a little bit more about Iris's like future plans, or like what she kind of like had hoped for the future. And she's like, so this is on 2014-05-30. I had always planned to go to college. I always wanted to be a teacher, maybe even at Maple Grove. There's still time. Maple Grove. This is the other person talking to her, Mrs. What was her hen or her hem in the society?
Mrs. Lukes.
Yeah, Mrs. Laux or Lukes.
Laux,
Yeah,
there's it.
Yeah, Mrs. Laux. Talking is like Maple Grove and leave Broodhollow, and then Iris is like, that was the plan, and I was like, hey, wait a minute, wasn't Maple Grove mentioned in an Icker Falls story? So I went back and I found this quote. As if the name of this place wasn't bad enough already, the college kids who come in from Maple Grove University call it the Ick. And that was from Religion, a story we tackled in Icker Fall of this year, and is from the submitted Icker Fall stories.
Nice.
So, yeah, interesting how it seems like, because I don't think it's Maple Grove has been mentioned anywhere else in like the official, like the Icker Fall stories written by Kris Straub. I don't mean like official, but I mean like the ones that are like by Kris Straub himself.
Yeah.
Not these submitted stories, which are, as far as I'm aware, were done by fans. And included on the website. But I like how, like, if this is the case, it sounds like Kris Straub borrowed the name from that story for this little Easter egg.
Mm-hmm.
And it does appear that Religion, the story, came first because it was posted in November of 2008, whereas this episode or this comic strip was from like what, 2014.
Yes.
So yeah, I just thought that's a really cool little Easter egg or integration of fan content into the greater Icker Falls Broodhollow setting.
Mm-hmm.
That there is in fact
all of the submitted stuff as canon.
Yeah, exactly, and that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the next thing here I have is 2014-08-08, when Iris is taking Miss Iskith through the graveyard, and then like she sees her dad's gravestone, and it just starts questioning like, why is everybody forgetting things? Like, is this like just going to keep happening over and over again? And then Miss Iskith kind of reveals that she knows about the fray, about the forgetfulness, and that the auxiliary club has learned to like how to cope with it, like not defeat it, but how to like deal with it, and like they're aware of it, like the auxiliary. And so like in the panels, it's the auxiliary learned to cope. But you mostly forget from your own life, but someone can remember for you, and we remember for them in turn. Mrs. Laux, that's what you meant. She's my hem, and you will be hers. All we have against the fray is one another. But if you know this, why stay in Broodhollow? There are devils everywhere, child. This is the one I know. So, first off, I like how like they give us a name for the forgetfulness, like for the forgetting. It's called the fray, and then they even have like kind of an associated name for how to for like the coping mechanism they've created for it. Like she's my hem, like the hem afraid like piece of cloth.
Yeah, that is cool.
Like, so yeah, we actually got, and it's actually like a really cool name for like this cosmic like force that is like happening upon the town.
Yeah, because
The
like
fray.
this using those words is good because it's like the fabrics are like splaying apart and getting all worn, but if you put a hem along them, they stay together.
Exactly. Yeah. And it would make sense because like that's how they'd name it, because like it's this like ladies like society that like is like they go for tea and they have pie and stuff like that, and like so like I just it really fits the aesthetic of this like 1920s like small town ladies society. Also, I love her like last lines is like why she stays in Broodhollow.
I was just gonna say that if you weren't.
Okay, yeah, I was like, there are devils everywhere, child. This is the one I know. It's like, yeah, that is 100% a great reason. It's like I'd rather live with the horror I know than go out and deal with the unknown. Like that is 100% a valid human reason to stay in a horrific location, because it might not be greener grass on the other side like of the fence. Like you like and that's a very real human thing to do, like to like, well, like, yeah, this sucks here, but I'm terrified of the unknown factor of going beyond where I am. So yeah, I really dug this. Like I for a while I thought Miss Iskith was going to be like maybe an antagonizing force, like because especially there's a couple of times when she like just seems to be like this like almost this eldritch entity in herself. When, the way she's like she's like portrayed occasionally, like especially when we get like the more wrinkly details of her. But like then it turns out no, she's just this old woman who's been like fending off against the weirdness of town with her little society that she's founded, or that she has. She may not have founded it, but
is she the leader of them?
Or is there really a leader? She's kind of the de facto, like the unspoken leader of the society.
Yeah, it's like a
because like
situation.
Yeah, because like everybody in town also like does something like she's able to shut down Mr. Planchet constantly.
Yeah, she has a lot of power.
Yeah. Also, I just gotta say, Zane fucking socking like Zane has been awesome this entire book. Like he's punched Cadaver for his bullshit dream, like cryptic dream nonsense. He's punched Planchet for his assholery and like his capitalist assholery.
Yeah.
And he got the killing blow on the Angleworm monster at the end of the book.
I did not see that coming.
I need to deny, but it was so good.
Especially when he's yelling, "I'm not a killer."
Yeah, well, was he saying that, or was he thinking it? Because were those word bubbles?
Screamed it, I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
I'll double check. I'm actually really close to that.
Yeah, well, I think I am too, because that's
no, he's
my next thing.
I'm not a killer.
Okay, I am not a killer.
Now die.
Now die, everybody, die. But yeah, no, it's just so good. Yeah. And then speaking of the
Before we get too far, speaking of the hem,
yes.
I'm just thinking, was the Stitch monster from the first book actually holding Broodhollow together?
Oh, wait. Was Harker the good guy?
I'm surprised we didn't try for that. We always supernatural task force everything.
We didn't know. We didn't know, guys. We didn't know.
Damn it.
Oh, that's maybe like even like that last scene is like I'd rather like it's like what did she say again? Sorry, it's like there are devils everywhere.
At least this one I know.
Yeah, this is the one I know. Like she'd rather deal with like the Stitched Man and like his like manipulations of the town, or like along with all the other horrors in town, rather than like go elsewhere and have to like learn new horrors or like deal with new stuff. Maybe that's very possible. Like, I mean, a lot of the stuff in Broodhollow and even Ichor Falls is connected through like one way or another. So, and through like conspiracies and machinations. So that's very thought provoking there, Mikey. But I'm gonna move on to the monster of the story, the angleworm, or the insectoid corpse creature that killed Maris.
One can assume it's called that, hence why.
Yeah, like that was my best like guess for it anyway.
I actually
So
didn't think that until you brought it up, to be honest.
Yeah. So yeah, we find out that Zane is like, I'm not like, oh god, I think I'm the killer, and then he hears like a sound behind him, and he looks over, and the corpse of the corpse of Mr. Novacek is being eaten by the creature, and oh god, there's a creature. So it's like, oh, looks like that's the killer. And that's on 2014-08-22. Really cool design, I gotta say. Like, just this insect made of corpses and skeletons, like very Dead Space-esque monster. Really dug it. Also, again, I like how the supernatural elements come to the forefront just as things start to feel like they might be all in the character's head, or that like it might be something realistic,
like a mundane horror of just him becoming a murderer. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, like I mean, like mundane, but I mean, like that's like because like again, it's just personally, I'm just tired of the overused trope of like the supernatural element in a horror movie was all in the character's head, and they're actually in an asylum, or they're in like they're in a mental ward because they're crazy. Like, it happens too often enough in like fiction and in pop culture that like it's like, no, give me the supernatural element, give me the catharsis, the fantasy catharsis. And it's even something that Mr. Novacek actually mentions earlier on in the comic strips, like when he's talking to Zane about like writing horror or writing mysteries, that humans like mysteries and such from a safe distance, i.e. fiction, like writing about it and stuff like that, or reading about it, rather than like in those situations we might act differently because, oh god, it's a mystery, it's a murder mystery, or it's a horror thing. But we love reading about that kind of stuff in like books and novels and fiction. And I think that's kind of, for me, that's like why I like horror and stuff like that, is like I don't like, in that sort of situation, I would be freaked out and like wet my pants and all that kind of stuff, or wet my robes. But like,
but you don't have pants on underneath the robe.
Let's move on. But like that's what I like about horror, is I think it's like it's this really cool, thrilling, creepy stuff, but it's like I have the safety blanket, or I have the safety limit of it's a story I'm reading, or it's a movie I'm watching. It's not real. It has that safety blanket of not being real, of being fictionalized or fantasticized. So yeah, again, just really, I was really happy that this story, like, it ended with like the supernatural monster is revealed to be the true killer, and not Zane who went nuts and killed a friend of his. And then,
that being said, actually, even if it did go that way, it would be a lot darker, honestly.
It would be, but I think that would actually, I don't know if that would ruin or it would harm the vibe, the overall vibe of Broodhollow. Because yes, it would be darker, but it might break the vibe, the balance between like this silly comic that has horror elements in it.
Yeah, and
like it might have gone too far over the edge.
As much with Zane anymore.
Yeah.
Because
this one definitely pushes that boundary a little bit, pushes the limit of like the seriousness of the situation by having a character death. And like having the town deal with the character death over the course of the book 2. Like it was much different from book 1, where book 1 was kind of this like fun, zany but
nice
like mystery about like this weird town and like this weird creature that's in the town and these ghosts and stuff. And then it's all gets done this very like 80s 90s kind of like horror movie, kind of like almost like a kids horror movie mystery kind of thing. Book 2 feels a little bit more grown up than book 1. And I appreciated that. Like I liked how it escalated a little bit more, but like didn't go too like still revealed that like yes, there is still a supernatural element. There is still a fantastical element here. Which makes me kind of worried now about book 3 now that I think about it. Like, is Kris Straub just gonna go full bore like psychological horror? Zane's been in an asylum the whole time. But for now, we shall move on to the next thing I have, which I think is like one of my last kind of comics and comments. So in 2014, 09, 22, and beyond. So it's like Zane looking at the pool of water, realizing it's the hole that he's seen in his dreams all these times, and like how he's had this like kind of compulsion to like dive into the hole and like find out more about it and stuff. And he's like, I have to know what's at the bottom. I have to go down, but how? And then it cuts away to the diving helmet that he had in his antique store that has been mentioned, has been brought up before, because like there's been a couple of times where character like it's been in the background, or like even like a character has moved it from like a location to when they're cleaning. So it was all tied together, like it's always been there in the background. And for me, this is this entire book has been very cosmic horror, like having to like having a character like looking deeper and deeper into themselves, into their weird dreams, trying to seek the truth of reality, and then coming across something wholly unnatural and finding its domain, like or a portal or an opening to its domain, and needing to go down, like needing to pursue it even further, like go push past like what would humanly be rational to go to do to seek out the truth of reality. That to me, that's cosmic horror, is like knowing that like you're probably not going to make it, or you're going to go crazy in the process, or die, and have your protagonist still have this need to do and go down and like push further, and damn the consequences. Also, man, the ending of this is like, was it all the dream that Cadaver set out to do? Like, because like earlier in the comic, after Zane punches Cadaver in the dream sequence, and like, I've had it with this. Like, I need you to like scare me. And then Cadaver's like, all right, and then like grabs his hands, or like puts his hands together, and then Zane wakes up from a very pleasant like sleep. And the entire time that happened, like, from then on forward, I was like, it's like, is this still part of the dream? Like, has everything up until that point, like everything past that point, is that all been part of Cadaver's dream? Dream sequence to scare Zane? Like all of this situation, like the whole like funeral situation, punching Planchet for bad mouthing Iris, facing against the Angleworm creature, like having it revealed that it was the killer, going down into this portal, this water, finding the strange cave underneath, and then that's when Cadaver pops out of the darkness to like jump scare Zane. We're like, was it all a dream, or is it like, what's real at the end of the story is what I'm kind of getting at. It's like, what the fuck?
I mean, it's possible.
And like, I kind of dig it for like being kind of thought provoking, of like, because like it seemed odd that like Cadaver is like, all right, I'll scare you, and then like he wakes up from a pleasant dream. It's like, okay, this has got to be the dream, and then it keeps going and keeps going, and there's like no real sign that like it's a dream sequence, except for a scene that happens where like when Zane finds the second, or like looks through the second journal, and goes outside to talk to Iris, and then goes back into his room and closes the door because he's like panicking, and he like shuts the door, and suddenly we're back in that white void that he was in the dream. So is that the hint that this has all been a dream up until up after that point? It left me. I will say the ending for this left me very like intrigued and confused in a good way.
The door thing, I think he was just remembering back to the dream. And
And
considering
it's
later
very
on
possible.
he
Yeah.
goes to sleep and has another dream, unless he's inceptioning and
Unless-
having a dream within his dream.
Which might be possible.
It might be, but I believe what happened was Cadaver is basically like, okay, fine, I'll scare you. And then he put basically plans into motion to have the second journal show up. And that fear that he's talking about to actually scare him is the fact that he can't believe his own mind anymore. Gaslighting him.
I did like, yeah, I would also accept that, because that is also like, it's very Broodhollow, it's very Ichor Falls of like, that it isn't just a dream. It's not just the stereotypical trope of like, it was just a dream this whole time. I like the fact, because we know that Cadaver does have some kind of control over reality. So it would be, or as subtle as it is, like it would be very possible for him to like maybe suggest to Iris while she's cleaning where the second journal, or where the first journal is.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I just gotta say, my last like big thought here is, once again, I've gotten really big Gravity Falls vibes from this story, from book one, and like especially leading up to the very end. Because again, in Gravity Falls, there are these mysterious journals of like a character looking into like the mysteries of the town, and like their own like weird mysteries and stuff like that. And then the final like scene of this story like ends with a character going toward a large like anomaly and an artifact. Well, in Gravity Falls, there's a similar scene where a character goes to a large anomaly and artifact at like the end of a season. Like that's been secreted away underground. So it's just really interesting that like, and I'm not implying that like Kris Straub was like borrowing from Gravity Falls. Like again, we know that like both Broodhollow and Gravity Falls came out roughly around the same time, but it might just be a happy coincidence. But and also it's just, I'm glad that there's more of that content out there of like the weird of this kind of weirdness in storytelling. But yeah, that's really my actual thoughts for book 2. It was a bit of an adventure. So, Mikey, these stands for evil.
All right. So, my first actual thought here is about the journal.
Mm-hmm.
So I quickly checked book 1 to see if there was a mention of journal from Dr. Angstrom.
Yeah.
Because that would have been awesome.
That would have, yeah.
But unfortunately, I didn't find one.
No, I think the way it's implying is that, because he thought it was January, but then he realized that the one holiday was like a cleaning holiday, almost like spring cleaning. So like he was like, wait, is it actually March? Like, so he's lost like several months between book 1 and book 2.
What does this have to do with what he's talking about?
Oh, because he's like trying to find if Angstrom like referenced the journal stuff in book 1, like during their sessions then. But I think the journal stuff probably was between the 2 books.
No, he's saying no. Angstrom,
okay,
whenever he does any sort of analysis of someone, like doing his job, he takes note of it, of what happened and what everybody said and what he suggested to his patient. He does that all the time, not just with Zane. And
yes, I'm aware of that.
And Mikey's saying that he was checking to see if that journal was brought up in the first book, but it wasn't.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that it was probably more likely that the first journal was done between book 1 and book 2.
Yeah, but the first journal, the little snippet that we see has the stitched man, or whatever, in it, which leads you to believe that it was being made during book 1.
I see what you mean. Yeah. Or maybe he was just like, those were the nightmares he was having after book 1 into book 2. I don't know. Also,
unlike really early on in book 1, when Zane's sitting there talking to Angstrom's sitting there with a notepad. Just saying.
Oh no, that's not the thing in question. Like, yeah, he takes notes and stuff, like copious amounts of notes. Okay, Mikey, are you meaning like the journal, like the first journal, or the first notebooks like that Angstrom had?
No, the first journal.
Oh,
Okay.
what? Yeah.
The
Okay,
Zane's
so what he
first
told
journal.
Zane to write. I was thinking you were
Yeah.
talking about Angstrom's journal.
Yeah, no.
No,
Okay.
Angstrom's constantly writing, so
Yeah.
he's writing down notes. But I was hoping that there would be mention of maybe you should write a journal
Yeah.
offhandedly,
Yeah.
and then we don't get the journal in the rest of that book type thing until book 2, and you go, oh yeah, you mentioned a journal, like.
Yeah, like that, like maybe at the very end of book 1, like his like one of his last sessions that we see, there's a reference to a maybe you should start a dream journal or something. But unfortunately, we don't. It's the kind of mystery where they just there was revealed some new evidence for the mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a way to do a mystery. It's just very hard to make that sound good sometimes.
Yes.
Because it's like, how convenient! You just omitted this thing for the rest. We had no hint of this ever.
It's almost like it's in a story where people can't remember things, you know?
I know. Yes, yes, I'm aware. I'm also just poking fun at like mystery writers in general, because there's like two types of like mysteries. There's ones where you have hints, and then there's other mystery writers that just add in stuff after the fact. It's like it's always been there. You just didn't. I just didn't include it in previous chapters. Anyway, sorry. Continue, Mikey.
Then I got a good chuckle out of the Cadaver comic on 2014-0214.
The stars, Mort. Do you believe we are all alone, or are there others up there? Perhaps they look up at us and wonder if we are here too. The night sky, she is full of mystery. It's daytime, and that's a blanket. Ah, but the questions remain. Oh, Cadaver.
Unfortunately, when I read it, I saw that as a blanket immediately. Because
Really?
there's the little like wiggly
I damn it! I just kind of figured that was like his blanket. Like he had a blanket. Like that was his blanket.
Oh,
like that negative space
yeah.
was like a blanket. Yeah.
Yeah, but what is he sleeping outside?
Maybe he's
In a
Cadaver. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
And then the next one that gave me a little bit of a chuckle was 2014-0320.
Okay.
Well, just the.
Could you explain what?
Well, because he's walking around town.
Yeah.
To get to the doctor to try and explain his dream. And he's like, darn it, the doctor's not here. And then, damn it, like, why is Chubby's dining car so conveniently placed in this town?
Yeah. Don Cubby's dining car and its convenient central location. Yeah. Also, is there? I guess it does get revealed eventually, like why he doesn't want to eat at Cubby's.
Yes.
Or why he doesn't want to eat Cubby's food because it gives him nightmares.
Yeah. But he always has nightmares, so
yeah.
I don't know.
And then the next thing I have is does Zane shit his pants in 2014-0502?
I'm sorry.
You will need to elaborate on this.
Well, basically, he finds the first journal.
Yeah.
And then he gets to the final page, and he's shocked by it. And then the last panel is Wadsworth. Are you still? Don't come in. I'm not decent. He just shit himself with a revelation of what he is.
I mean, sure. I kind of took that as just like that thing that people do when like somebody's like tries to come into their room. It's like, no, don't. Like he just made an excuse
because he's
so
freaking out right now.
Yeah, exactly. But sure, he shit himself.
He does get dressed immediately after.
That is true. Yeah. Well, but that's because he's in his his pajamas beforehand.
Oh, it's because he shat himself.
Clearly. Yeah. Okay.
It's there, clean it, like clear as mud. Like you could see it.
Yeah. Clear as shit. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's the end of my actual thought.
Okay. Always with the highbrow humor there, Mikey.
Mm-hmm.
So gamer, your actual thoughts then next.
Okay. So early on, it's I'm not going to bother referencing it.
You
Actually, you
bastard.
can't. Fine, 2013, 1018.
Thank you.
Happy?
2013, 1018. Thanks.
Sure, yeah. So after the joke about everyone like taking their shoes off because Zane has like underfloor heating and everything,
Yep.
she walks out the door, and because it was shown previously that she like is wearing socked feet, I imagine she's just walking out into the snow in socked feet now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like yeah, she.
And then
Yeah.
I go back like through the like previous entries and the previous book and everything. It's like no, like everyone just walks around in leggings with no shoes.
Yeah.
In the entire town always.
Yeah, either that or it's just like again the simplistic art style just like has no time for shoes.
Yes, of course, I understand
Yeah.
that, but
It is
it
silly.
looks the same regardless.
Yep. Also, thank you, Mikey,
Unless-
for last episode we did. I cannot unsee the fingertips that go that merge with the world, merge with everything they touch. Just
Oh God, I see it again.
How did you not see it? like.
Oh, I saw it before. I just forgot.
Oh, okay.
Now I'm looking at one that I'm watching in the current one where Zane has his hands on his face and they're merging into his face.
Yeah, again, we have the thing situation where like the hand starts merging into the person's head. They're all just Shoggoths. That's why no one wears shoes. They're all just Shoggoths anyway, so they can just like change their appendages at will.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the other way is just like everyone is just wearing pant-colored shoes here, basically.
Yep. Or skin-colored
shoes. Has their or skin color, yeah. Or everyone wears their pant cuffs all the way down to the ground, covering their shoes.
Yeah,
it's like tight down there.
Yep.
Those are two options.
Mm-hmm.
There was one panel when like who was it? It was Planchet. He was walking, and you could see like the sole of his shoe that was like black, but the rest of it was all pant colored.
Yeah.
And when the I think I'm assuming it was in a dream, when the waitress was like dead with like her upper body in like the giant hole, one of her shoes fell off. But it's basically just like if you had the insole of a shoe on your foot and it just peeled off.
Oh
God. Like that's how the art style is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'll move on from there. I think this was when Iris went to the first meeting of the auxiliary.
Yep.
And she brought up about Maris and they should take over because Planchet doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And they all say "here, here." Whenever I think of people saying "here, here," I always thought of it as HERE. HERE, like doubled on here as in location based.
Like here, here, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not. It's here as in I hear you twice.
Yeah. Also, I like how I pantomimed like here, here, while like pointing my finger down to the ground. But this is an audio medium, so that didn't come in through.
I mean, I saw it. You didn't see it? Come on, guys.
Steve.
But yeah.
Nothing.
Because I often don't use that vernacular when writing. I just kind of assumed it was HERE.
Yeah.
And just, it would be like, if you're saying it in that tone, you'd be saying like, at this location, me, like, I agree with you, you know?
Yeah.
But it's actually like, I hear you. Which makes sense. But it makes sense both ways.
Mm.
And then it goes on later on with Zane bringing up his trick back acting up. And I don't remember that being a thing before, and it wasn't, as we found out.
Yep.
But I've also never heard the term trick back before.
Oh, really?
So I had to Google it, and it's basically just someone has pain in their back when they're doing normal things that
Yep.
they shouldn't have back pain for.
Yeah, some of my family members have to go to like a chiropractor a lot, so I think that's probably where I've heard it from before.
Yeah, makes sense. So I learned a thing. Hooray.
Mm-hmm.
And then Zane is talking to Iris about how he's writing a journal now, and she's saying like, "Oh, can I read some of it?" And he's like, "Gosh, I haven't written much, and it's really personal." And then he immediately goes on and starts reading it.
I think that was part of the comedy.
I mean, I guess
That was part
it's
of
like
the
there was
silliness of
no
it, yeah.
second thought at all.
Yep. Or like how like after he's done talking, they both say at the same time, like that does sound crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was part of the gag.
I don't know. Just the flow of it felt kind of weird.
Fair.
Because if he's like, it's really personal, then it makes it sound like he doesn't want to share it, and he won't without an additional like push by her.
Yeah. The thing is though, this is like a horror comedy. So again, like there are some of these like weird, like these odd gags of or like kind of just wordplay or just like behavioral silliness.
Yeah, fair enough. But I saw the gag at the end, not here.
Gotcha.
Like I expected a single line from Iris saying like, "Don't worry, I won't judge" or anything like that. You know?
And then have her judge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Zane being like, "It's really personal, but I could use a second opinion on this." All right. Or something, you know?
Yeah.
That's all. Then we get on to the paperboy being like, "Extra, extra, read all about it. Mill worker found dead in the Stillwood Forest." Me rubbing my hands together with a grin on my face. Good. The king will be here soon, I hope.
Good.
Or maybe something else, but it isn't wolves because there's no wolves in the Stillwood. There may be a giant bug-like creature with human remains on its abdomen.
There's also
That's
aren't there
the
like
back, right?
there's also animal bones on there too, so it could be
Made up of wolves.
the not wolves of the Stillwood.
Yeah.
That is the wolves of the Stillwood. Also, if that's the wolves of the Stillwood, that is terrifyingly awesome.
Mm-hmm. I was hoping you guys weren't going to go there this entire time. I'm like, I have a note on this. Please don't say it.
Well, it's a good thing we didn't.
Mhm.
Also, now I just kind of want like it would be really cool if it had not been called Angleworm, but Anglewolf. We wouldn't have any idea except for like the last scene where it's like, wait, there were wolf skulls on the Angleworm.
Mhm.
There are no
Yeah,
wolves in the
specify
stew.
what they were.
There's this fucking thing.
Like in my head canon, that is what it is.
Yeah.
That is the not.
Well, it's like how the hounds, like in Lovecraft, in the Cthulhu mythos, the Hounds of Tindalos, which was like an offhanded thing that he references in one story he wrote, and then another author in his circle of authors and friends actually wrote a story about the Hounds of Tindalos, but they're not actual hounds in the canine sense. They're supposed to be just these like dimensional beings, these dimensional creatures that hunt down time travelers.
Oh, okay.
They hound you. Like they are hounds in like their actions more than like their appearance. Their appearance is like actually like, I mean, a lot of people do draw them as dog like creatures, but like they're actually not supposed to be hounds. They were like probably something else that we couldn't even fathom. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then later on, Zane goes to Chubby's because he's hungry.
Cubbies.
The waitress. Oh, it is Cubby's. You're right. There.
You said Chubbies.
I did say Chubby's.
I mean, that actually probably would be a decent diner name for something. Like, welcome to Chubby's.
Everything is just dripping in fat here.
Well, we are a greasy spoon.
Nothing is good for you. Yeah. You're such a greasy spoon that the entire spoon is made of grease.
Oh, it's deep fried.
Yeah.
It's a deep fried spoon.
Mm-hmm.
Delicious.
That's their logo. Just a deep fried spoon.
Yeah, it's just a cartoon of a deep fried spoon. Yeah.
Yep. Well, now if you ask me for the name of a diner when we're playing a tabletop RPG.
Oh man, now I just need to throw that in there. Like, welcome to Chubby's, home of the deep fried spoon.
Mm-hmm.
We're such a greasy spoon. We've got deep fried spoons.
Hell yeah. But anyways,
Yes.
Zane goes to Cubby's because he's hungry. Talks to the waitress who asks why he keeps coming if he doesn't like the food. And Zane says that the coffee's good and he doesn't like being alone in the mornings. And then the waitress says that she can't, quote unquote, take him up on it.
Yeah.
And asks if she could take a later shift, alluding to making the diner empty of people for Zane, which isn't what he just said. And then Zane says that it's okay. He likes being in a place with a lot of activity. So, am I missing something here?
Yes, gamer, you're missing it. You're missing it. Yeah, Mikey, do you want to say what it is?
Okay. So she's
something because you guys both kept interrupting while I was trying to say.
I've just been laughing the whole time.
Yeah. So she's basically saying she could take a later shift, meaning she could be with him in the morning.
She's been flirting with him the entire comic. Like every time she shows up and talks to him, she's been flirtatious. And at at that point where where she was like talking about different shifts, she was like, "Well, I could get a different shift so that we could have a little bit of alone time." And then he like completely misses it, like you did apparently. And like,
I'm just as oblivious as they.
Yeah, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, actually, I like it because it's like all the people and influx and stuff." And she's like, so basically that was the equivalent of like him just not getting it, and she just like, "Oh, you're not getting it. Okay, let me know if you need any more coffee, sir." Like,
I honestly did not see that she was flirting with him.
Wow. Okay, fair enough. But
anyways,
yeah.
So I'll go back and read all of their conversations later, but for now I need to continue.
Yes.
Okay. Zane says that, well, if you want a time, 2014-04-11, Zane says that last night he had a dream about Maris, and I don't know how accurate that is, honestly, because he dreamt about a trail of blood in the forest, which led him to a bunch of blood symbols on the ground. So maybe he assumed that the blood trail was going to go to Maris's body.
Yeah.
But it didn't.
No, it doesn't.
So it's not really a dream about Maris at all. It's just a dream.
Yeah. He's just implying it.
Yeah, but he straight up says that last night he had a dream about Maris.
I don't know what to tell you, man.
And the only connection I can see is immediately after that, when it shows a shot of his journal, there's a drawing of Maris's dead body in it.
Yeah.
But there was nothing in the dream that I really saw that is enough to say that that dream is about Maris.
Unless he's assuming that the blood trail leads to Maris.
Yeah.
Yes, but it didn't lead to Maris, so it wasn't about Maris. It was about all the weird symbols at the end that he got information on, but nothing had to do directly with him.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I, once again, am completely missing something.
So I went back a little bit, and on 2013-12-30, he did have a dream where the blood trail did lead to Maris's corpse.
But that wasn't last night.
No, but I'm just saying, like, that's probably where he, like, why he ties the blood trail to Maris, like, that he figures it's going to be Maris's corpse there at the end of it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my guess.
Or,
I'm just speculating on like how I'm trying to figure out like why he said that to help.
Or potentially the blood trail starts at Maris, so it's always Maris.
Yeah.
So he's following the blood trail from Maris.
Yeah, that could
in
be
all his dreams. So the blood is Maris's.
Oh, so so he's actually not following the blood trail to Maris. He's following it away from Maris to find out where it leads.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Okay, but that's not shown, so it's all assumptions.
Sure.
Either way, I'll move on. 2014-05-13.
That goes in. Wait, 2013-05-13 goes to like back to book 1.
Well, what freaking number was it then? God damn it! I'll start clicking.
Oh no!
It's 05-23, not 13. So Zane is not sure about looking into the old journal that he found too deeply.
Yeah.
And Angstrom saying like they have to for the town and for his paper and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next panel, Dr. Angstrom uses ninja clone jutsu to think faster.
Okay.
And yes, I'm aware it's to show that he's pacing around while Zane stands there. But
Thank you. I needed to clarify that. It did need to be clarified.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. Like when I first saw it, I was like, all right, I know what they're doing, but like I can also see this happen, like being really like weird. Suddenly there's just clones of Dr. Angstrom.
Yeah, and if that is actually the case, then later on,
Mrs. Iskith.
Yeah, she also knows ninja clone jutsu.
Well, yeah, of course. Where do you think Dr. Angstrom learned it from?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Mm-hmm.
Also, how dare you reference Naruto?
I was gonna reference Dragon Ball Z, but they don't really have a cool name for it. They just call it the cloning technique. And then you'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about, cloning technique? And I'd be like, oh, it's from Dragon Ball Z. That's what they call it. They don't have a cool name for it. And then you're like, oh, you should have called it Ninja Clone Jutsu.
And then I'd be just, and then and then it'd be fine. Because, like,
yeah,
I'm the one I am the weeb of this podcast.
Yeah.
Either way. Yeah.
So later on, he ends up finding the murder weapon and all that, or the supposed murder weapon. And I'm curious how the hell they didn't find it before, because previously him and Iris did like a full clean of his entire place.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe they just did not clean his room that he slept in. They just cleaned out front.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Maybe.
Because he said he'd go and clean it, and then he didn't because he was dealing with like his panic attacks and stuff.
Yeah, I guess that's possible. Then after the Knot Wolf of the Stillwood starts fighting them, and Zane gets slapped in the face by it. This is the second time that the main creature has cut him in his right forehead. Is this going to be a running thing?
Maybe.
Like that spot on his head is just going to be a mess of scars at the end of this story.
Constantly.
Yeah. Always targeted there.
It is exactly where he got hit last time. And where he got stitched up. Yep. Poor Zane. Mm-hmm. He's just going to be Scarface by the end. Like to one side.
Me Two-Face?
Yeah, that too.
Scarface is the movie with the Say Hello to My Little Friend.
Okay, I wasn't referencing a movie. I was referencing just like the nickname Scarface.
Oh.
Because of somebody who has scars on their face.
No, you're wrong and I'm right.
Fair enough. Continue.
That works.
Hey man, drag me down enough and I'll just give up.
Okay, that's good to know. Anyways, moving on. Very near the end at 2014-10-06. Or that's an 08. At the bottom of the hole, last panel on that page.
Yep.
I couldn't tell straight away that he was at the end of his line. At first, I thought he was just walking and he saw something and he's like, I'm going to tug on my line, pull me out.
Is that not what he does?
No, he doesn't, because given the visual of the next page, I believe he's just at the end of the line. And because like he is leaning back a little bit in that last shot, showing that he can't walk any further.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, because I thought honestly, like I thought what you thought initially, where it was just like he's tugging the line to like, because he's like, nope, get me out of here,
Mm-hmm.
Pull it
That's
back.
What I originally thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it is the case that he just ran out of line in that last shot, I feel like he should be like leaning back a little bit, like losing his balance, because all of a sudden it went taut.
Yeah.
And I do get it. Like you're doing a webcomic, you want to reuse assets. I get it. That's way easier. Because basically they just took the first one and then just moved a little bit to make it work. But if it is meant to be running out of slack, then a little stumble would show that a little bit better.
Yeah. Also, regarding 2014-10-08.
Yeah.
So the previous page had him like fall through the water.
Yeah.
But then we get into the next page. Was I the only one who at first thought he'd gone back into the water? Just based on like the atmosphere of like the first couple of panels?
Yes.
Okay. Because I was like, wait, because I almost mistook some of the fungus that's like behind him in the second panel as like bubbles. But like then I realized like wait no, he's still walking on the bottom there, so like I guess that's not water still.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a little confusing at first.
That's okay. Normally I'm the one confused. It's confusing that I'm not confused in this confusion.
Yeah. And that you're understanding. Weird.
Yeah. That's the weirdest part. Yeah, looking at the panel that you're talking about with the mushrooms behind them, I can see how you could see those as potentially bubbles.
Like I think what it is because like the glow effect on the mushrooms is also kind of dim, like muted in a way, which for me, like I familiarize that with like being underwater as well. But then that dimness and that glowing kind of subside, like are less in the continuing comic and the continuing panels. So it's like, oh, I guess he's not underwater. I mean, he's technically, literally, he's underwater.
Yes.
Because he is under the water that he fell through. But
he has to jump up to get back into the water.
Yeah, exactly. God, the gravity of that situation is weird.
I don't think it's a gravity thing at all.
Well, I mean, it like just the effect looks like a gravity situation because like suddenly there's like it's almost as if there's a gravity like in the middle of the pool of water. So like the water's normal gravity on the surface, and then when you get down a certain depth, it switches gravity.
It's not gravity. No. He falls to the bottom
and out of the water.
Yes, but if gravity was inverted there, he would just immediately stay. He would stay at the water surface. He wouldn't fall down because he is being pushed down to the very bottom. By
okay,
gravity.
Yes, you're right. I meant like the effect looks like gravity is switched for the water.
Yes,
that's what I meant. Okay,
visually,
I will
yes,
shut up now.
Not actual gravity though.
Yes.
And the last thing I brought up, which is skeleton within the skeletonception situation.
Yep. Yeah, we kind of already went through that, but yeah, it's still very weird now that you think it's like, oh god.
I kind of wish you could see like the little bones inside his arm bone that with the split in it, but you can't.
Yeah, they haven't fully like those are a lot thicker, like ectoplasm or whatever he's got, whatever his outer shell is made of. They're a little bit more opaque. Still a cool effect, though.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Also, I'd love to have that as like a screen, like a desktop, just like Zane in the diving suit with cadaver there.
You have the technology.
I do, but I do. What?
Oh, I'm just thinking the last time someone first was the mayor earlier in the book, and his head became a hole.
Wait,
okay.
What?
There you go.
So,
thank you.
So, if you look at the skeleton with the skeleton, he's shifting.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh no! Is his face just gonna cave into the darkness?
But
wait,
he presses that middle skin flap of ectoplasm.
Yeah,
that's the switch.
But wait, wasn't the hole in the people's faces and like in their bodies and stuff like that just a metaphor in the dream for the pool of water that Zane is now in?
Yes.
So, wow. But that's the end of your final thought or your actual thoughts there, gamer. Okay. All right. Well, gonna move on to final thoughts with that disturbing and confusing end. Yeah. I got nothing really else to say other than I recommend this book still. Like after like our little dialogue and stuff like that with this, like as with the previous book, like the flaws of there's some flaws again with like the website. Like I wish the index they had an index, but I can't help that. I guess I'm gonna have to buy book 3 if I want to know what happens next.
Yeah, because we are left with a little bit of a cliffhanger in this one.
Yeah. But yeah, otherwise, like again, art wise, like honestly, it upped its game. I think book 2 did up its game from book 3 or from book 1, with in terms of like ramping up a little bit more of the horror element and bringing it into the actual cartoon style of the comic book. The drama and the emotion was a lot more. I remember saying in the first book kind of felt very cinematic to me. This one is also very cinematic, but in a different, more dramatic way. Like the story beats are there's different story beats in this one from book 1 that differentiate it, but also like it is the same kind of like quality of cinematic like imagery that we get. So and in the storytelling. So again, like it just seems like the natural progression from book 1. So that's why I'm going to continue to recommend book 2 for Broodhollow. Bookhounds of Broodhollow. But yeah, next up is Mikey, your verdict.
All right. So my only issues were the fact that journal wasn't mentioned in the previous book. That would have been so awesome.
Yeah, just to have like a little bit of a tease.
Yeah. And then I was going to say another issue I had was that I guess Stillwood King, or the thing that came out of his back, wasn't the monster.
Yeah.
But then in the previous book, we had 2 different ghosts, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Yeah.
So with that, I was like, okay, well, I guess that is in line with what he's done before, sort of showing one thing when it's actually another thing or whatever.
Yeah, I'm just doing a quick look. Because on 2013 0710, which is like I think 3 or 4, it's a handful of pages away from the end of book 1. There is a creature in the woods or in the park as Zane and Iris leave, and like it freaks out the ghost girl, and she gets kind of panicked. I don't think it's the same monster as the Angleworm.
It's all stitched up like the Stitch guy. Also, that stuff in the background looks sort of like the red sigil stuff looks sort of similar to the rocks at the end of book 2.
So maybe that is perhaps the Stitch we have not encountered the Stillwood King as of yet.
It's possible.
Perhaps this is the Stillwood King.
No,
or whatever's.
I mean, this guy looks a lot like the Stitch guy.
No, it's not the same guy though.
Well, I know, but there was that previous one where he's like after the bat attack or something. There's a couple of ghosts that he spotted, and then he just walked home.
Yeah, and then when he also sees
similar to that too.
I thought it looked like the creature he thought he saw like as they were like driving away from the hospital. Like there was some like weird like eldritch thing in book 1 that he saw like as like behind them that wasn't the Stitch King or the Stitch King, the Stitch Man. I'm now scrolling down. It's possible. There's a lot of monsters in Ichor Falls and in Broodhollow, so
yes. Oh yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. That thing in the forest, the red with the circular thing above it, that is 100% that. Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell that is.
Yeah, something. But it's definitely like tied to the
Angleworm, honestly.
Yeah, that could be the Angleworm. Yeah, maybe the creature that attacked Maris and Zane wasn't even the Angleworm. Again, it was just like it was something else, like something else in the ecosystem. Perhaps it came from the wood, or perhaps it came from the same place as all the other things. But again, we haven't. The mystery isn't over yet in Broodhollow.
No, not at all.
Just behind a paywall.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Sorry,
Mike. Yeah.
So other than those things, the story was enjoyable, and I did get a couple chuckles here and there. So I'm still going to recommend this.
Good. And Gamer.
Yeah, my recommendation hasn't changed through our talk. I'll still recommend it. I'm still enjoying the story quite a bit. Bringing in the Stillwood gives it some good bonus points. And leaving it off on a cliffhanger sucks, because I want to know what the hell happens.
Yeah.
Many questions here. That last page, like all the symbols on the ground, I'm assuming that's what he was seeing in one of his dreams. Like there's all the blood sigils on the ground. Yep. But then, what the hell is the giant, not Broodhollow symbol on the wall, and like the hanging crystals, and
like with all the glyphs and stuff like that? Like, what is is this some like weird ancient civilization that's like buried under Broodhollow or something?
It's probably gonna, if that last creature wasn't the same one as the one that you saw in the rearview mirror,
yeah,
it's gonna show up, because all these rock things, it's red sigils with a glowy, bluey white light on the top, which is exactly the same thing that you saw in his review.
And that is from page 2013-0308 is where the rearview mirror thing is as well.
Yeah, from chapter 1.
Yeah, from book 1.
Probably alluding to that is going to be a thing that's showing up.
It's very possible. Yeah, like and it kind of I'm wondering if it is like, I don't think it's the Still. It might be the Stillwood King, but I feel like it could be something else as well.
I think it's gonna be something else. Stillwood King was just a dude.
Well, that was the legend. Like it could have been something else, though. It could have been like that was just the legend that people made for it.
But also, he was permanently locked inside the Stillwood, and in the rear view on the road is not in the Stillwood.
I mean, they may have driven. Maybe that road goes through the Stillwood.
I don't know.
It's
I don't know his laws, whether or not he's able to go to adjacent roads or roads that go in between, or if he has to stay within the forest. Either way, it's not a thing in this, so there's no point talking about it. Regardless, the story itself is good. The way that the first book ended, the entire story could have ended there, and I would have been okay with that. But this one, no, it cannot end here, because it leaves way too many questions up in the air.
So I'm going to have to get you book 3.
May need to at some point.
Yeah, whenever your birthday is, or maybe around Christmas time.
We shall see. Yeah, I kind of appreciated the first one a bit more because it was self-contained. Mm-hmm. Like this one could have also been somewhat self-contained, although it does reference the first book a whole lot.
Yeah.
So maybe not. But the way that this ends, I kind of feel like chapter 1 was a contained story with certain entities, and they didn't show up in book 2. And book 2 was the start of its own thing with different things that weren't, like, wasn't too much about book 1 that was in it. There was things that were referenced, but it wasn't the main plot.
Yeah.
But with how this ends, it kind of feels like chapter 3 is going to be a continuation of chapter 2.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way.
More directly.
Yeah, like it's like the next, like if book 3 doesn't start with like something to do with like what happens at the end of book 2, it's going to be kind of weird or jarring.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, we did get closure for the main plot point of book 1 or book 2, which was the murder of Maris and like what happened to him and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like then it just blew open the door for book 3 with this weird like cosmic revelation of something buried beneath the county.
And you know that both the auxiliary and the other
the Skull and Shovel Society.
Yeah, you know that they know about this.
Well, yeah, because the symbol down here in the pit is basically an iteration of both of their symbols.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So he'll be asking some questions.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
But again, as I said, overall, I still recommend it. Curious what will happen in the 3rd.
Indeed. And we'll have to figure out how to get a hold of that for another episode. But but that sounds like a good place to stop. I think we've said most of our pieces about Broodhollow Book 2, Electric Boogaloo. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. We're all on Twitter, so you can send us messages there. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W at the end because his name is very long.
Yeah, and I'm questionably on Twitter. I'm not really on here.
You pop on whenever you remember.
Like now?
Yeah, every week. So every once, at least once a week.
Yeah.
And I'm at Review Cultist. If you'd like to send us emails, you can go to aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com, where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah! And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon. Look up Aldente Rigamortis and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you guys immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the author of this story, of this webcomic, the author and artist of this webcomic, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it'd be like screaming into the void. And without your authorship, your creative without your creative setting of Ichor Falls and Broodhollow, Kris Straub, we really wouldn't have much of a show today because we'd have nothing to talk about. So thank you. Hell, we'd have nothing to talk about for several episodes if you hadn't come up with Ichor Falls and then Broodhollow. So yes, thank you immensely. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Aldente Rigamortis. Happy Halloween. Sleep well.